So we're going to start off by just telling you a bit about the All Parliamentary Party Group on fair elections, which most of you already know about. But just before Christmas, we were approached by the officers of that All Party Group to become the new secretariat for it. The group, the APPG now has over 150 members. There's a combination of peers and MPs, but the majority of the people who are on the APPG are Labour. And we did that on purpose so that we could show the Labour government that their politicians are really passionate about PR. The APPG has three core areas, and you'll be seeing over the coming months a few comments from us about areas beyond proportional representation. But I am here to tell you nothing will stop us from our unwavering commitment for proportional representation. But we are, along with our co-secretariat, Unlock Democracy, who many of you know, are going to support the MPs and peers who were on that group to look at the two other key pillars of the all-party group, and they are around dark money. And I think a lot of you will understand why making sure that dark money doesn't further poison our politics is really important. And then the other thing is on dis and misinformation. They're very different, apparently, which I didn't know before. But working with partners across the sector to see what we can do to reduce the amount of disinformation that's spread, particularly, but not exclusively, through election cycles. The all-party group has got some representative from all parties, apart from Reform. So if you're in a Reform-led constituency, remind their MP that they should also join up to this. They have been champions for proportional representation, so we'd be very happy for them to come along. And the all-party, I always get it wrong, so because it's quite long, you see, as well. APPG, its key role is to really champion democratic reform, and we have got a brilliant chair in Alex Sobel, who has promised he'll come and speak to us all soon, so we shall be sending you an invite when he's free. And also Ellie Chowns, who many of you know, who's the Green MP, and also Lisa Smart, who is a Liberal Democrat MP. We also have as the other officer Lord Balfe, who's a Conservative peer, and it's really important. The only way you can set up an APPG is by having an opposition person within those officers group. So we've got all the main things covered. They've been very active. They are working very hard to make PR happen, and they're very excited that you all are behind them. Now, before we go on to the bill, I just wanted to see if anyone had any questions about anything we've just said about the APPG. Sorry, Alistair, I will try and speak more slowly. We've got a lot to get through, but I do appreciate the heads up, so thank you. Have we got any other questions? I think someone's answering them. Is there anything, Caroline? Molly?
Sorry, could I just ask a question quickly?
It's Sue.
Yes.
Oh, yes, Sue.
Hello. Sorry. We've had quite a lot of discussions in Oxford about Make Votes Matter and its funding. Can you just quickly tell me who's is it Roundtree funding Make Votes Matter now? And do you get any funding for being the APPG Secretariat?
Unfortunately, we don't get any money for being the Secretariat. It's, as I keep on telling people, it's all the work and none of the glory, but that's fine. And we have got a current grant from Joseph Rowntree Reform Trust, and that is funding actually our work around this bill. But the vast majority, 2/3 of our income, comes from individuals like you on the call,
Right.
who support us and generously support us, not just with your advocacy, but also with your money. So that is where the majority of our funding comes from.
Thank you very much.
Emma, we did have another question that was Labour won the last election with a huge support majority, but was supported by only 1/3 of voters and 1/5 of the electorate. Surely electoral reform would make minority rule almost impossible, though it might not always lead to good government. I think there's probably almost answered your own question, but that's from Bob Gillespie.
Hi, Bob.
I think so. You know, one of the things that Sir John Curtis talks about quite a lot is the fact that this is a very shallow sort of like uh, electorate they've got. So Labour won on this very wafer thin sort of amount of people, even though it feels huge. So many seats, 34% of the vote. And it's sometimes hard for us to take a step back and see what a new system might look like. But if you look at what's happening right now in Gorton and Denton, we see that there are three parties who are almost polling at the same level, depending which poll you see. And I think that this is the shift that we all need in our heads, not us here on the call, but everyone else, is that if we had a new system, we'd absolutely have more Green MPs. We would definitely have more Reform MPs. We would have more Plaid Cymru MPs. We would have, because votes would count more fairly across those distributed models. So I think that we talk a lot about, how people will get their voices heard, but I think Gorton and Denton is a real example of how, if we had PR, we might have might not even have by-elections, but that's another story. But we would have a different framework and different makeup of our parliament. So Audrey's asked a bit more to flesh out a bit more about our funding, which we will do, Audrey, but possibly in writing to you and anyone else who's interested in it separately, because otherwise we could spend the whole hour talking about it. But we're very happy to talk about our funding. We've got nothing to hide, put it that way.
And we did have one more question asking what does APPG stand for, but it might be worth going into a little bit about what APPGs do in Parliament and how they're going to help us secure fair votes.
Well, they're an interest group, okay? That's the main thing, is they're like an interest group. So they've got them for golf, they have them for South Sudan, they have them for East Timor, Ukraine, deaf children. They have all sorts of interest groups, and politicians come together across their political divide because they care equally about an issue. So number one, it's a great way of people role modeling what a good PR system would look like, because they come together, they work together, and they put together a plan on an annual basis for what they would like to achieve as a group of cross-party politicians. The biggest benefit for us with the current APPG and its makeup is it is the largest all-party parliamentary group in Westminster, by far the largest and still growing. Thank you to MVM Oxford, who their hard work meant that we have a new member in Annalise Dodds. More members are always welcome, so please do encourage your supporters. But they can use that power to talk to the government more directly. And one thing that I always get told off for sharing secrets, so I'm going to do it anyway. But Alex Sobel has been invited, who's the chair of this APPG, has been invited to a one-to-one meeting with the minister to talk about the bill. So that's a great opportunity for him to talk about all of the work of the APPG and remind the minister, who many of you have written to, that our number one call is for a proportional system. So that's the power that those groups have. Does that help, Molly?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Emma. I can't see any more questions in the chat about our role on the APPG. Rachel has asked how can we get updates on what the APPG is doing?
Yes, fantastic. Thank you, Rachel. So there are a series, and maybe Molly or Caroline might be able to go and grab the social media handles, but there's if you're on social media, we are running the social media for them now, and we can give you those handles so you can look there. But I'm absolutely committed to you that we will more regularly update you on the work through the emails that you get. I know for some of you we send too many emails. I am very sorry, but I know others of you love reading the emails, and we will be giving regular updates on what's happened with the in the APPG and what you can do. And I think it's really important again to recognise that the politicians, one of the reasons they were really keen that we were involved is because of your work and because of you as the activists. And they know that the main way in which we will achieve our success is through political pressure from them and public pressure from us, and combining those forces and delivering change. So we will give more updates, and if you feel like we're not telling you enough, always tell us because we will tell you more. We're also thinking about maybe launching a new Substack, which is something that's very popular. I'm sure some of you have signed up, some aren't, to try and give more and more information. So again, nothing we do is secret. Love you all to hear more and find out a bit more. Okay. There's one question that's come in. I've just missed it though. Ooh.
Will the APPG's own website also be regularly updated? Sean asks.
Sean, wherever you are, thank you for that. Yeah, we've had a slight hiccup. We will be updated. We just haven't got the back end. I believe that's the technical term, sorted out properly. So we will absolutely update that, and we will make sure that and that's where we put the list of everyone who's a member. So if you aren't sure whether your MP's on it, you will be able to check that and look and see if they're on there. And then there's Francine has got a question about climate and nature emergency. So there are actually quite a few all parliamentary groups on nature, and they're quite diverse. There's one on rivers, there's one on flooding, and there are some broader ones about environment. So absolutely dealt with by APPGs, but also absolutely really important and should probably be dealt with by government more seriously as well. Are there any other questions, or shall we move on to the presentation?
We've got one comment from Andrew
Right.
saying he feels that proportional representation is more important than votes at 16, and is this a view that's shared by others?
Wow. Well, he says, well, it's a great question. I'm sure. Let's see if anyone else wants to pop into the chat box what they think, but it's very interesting. So one of our young activists, Livy, who some of you know from these calls, did a piece for us about votes at 16, and saying, what's the point of having the vote if my vote doesn't count? And I think that's what a lot of young people will think, is it doesn't matter if my vote doesn't count. So we will be making that argument through the passage of the bill too. And on that, like, very easy sort of segue across, maybe I'll just give you, an update about the bill. So you might have heard us calling this bill before I'm just going to see if I can get it back up, the elections bill. And then you might have seen an email where we said it was the elections and democracy bill. These were all the working titles up until about 3 days before the bill was published, where they changed it to the Representation of the People Bill. Now, I was interested to find out it's not the first time they've used this title. This is a very popular title when big legislative changes are made in Westminster. So it's one of about 6 bills that have, over the last century, have been called this. But we like this because it makes a lot of fun for us. We can really work with that title as they haven't currently got anything about PR in the bill. But let me just move on and tell you what is in the bill. No, type that bar, sorry. Excuse me. So it's quite a long bill. And then for those of you who are really into your bills, and I know there's a couple of you on the call, there's a big explanatory note that goes with this too. And we can put some links in later if that helps to where the bill is and how you can find it and how you can read it. So the bill has got these 3 buckets, as we might call it. So number 1, the primary driver, and we know has been a big commitment from the Labour Party for many a year, is to extend voting rights to 16 and 17-year-olds. It is also one of the most controversial parts of the bill. And I think that that element will be the thing that will be explored the most, along with any regulation around donation caps that will take up the majority of parliamentary time. The other couple of things in this expanding democracy bucket are more flexible voting. So they really, really want to trial making it easier for people to vote. You will still be able to vote by post. Really important that if you want to choose that, that's the option for you, and it will still be available, as will proxy voting. But they're going to look at whether they can have a polling booth at the local Sainsbury's. So that could be quite exciting. And then they're also going to do something around making it easier to show ID. So quite a few of people wouldn't, and and us would like ID to be scrapped. They're not going to scrap it, but if they make it fairer, so there is talk, for example, that your debit card might count as a voting mechanism, but we have to, wait and see. The next big area is around integrity of our democracy, effectively. So right now, a man called Philip Rycroft is doing an investigation into foreign interference in our elections, and that will be put in through the bill during the passage of the bill, which we'll talk about in a minute. But they're really taking it very seriously about the foreign interference in our elections. There's going to be strengthened and stricter rules about overseas donations and also company donations, because there's quite a lot of, I don't like calling them shell companies, but I think they are shell companies whereby people are putting donations through. There should be more guidance for people like us as well, which is really important, because we are registered with the Electoral Commission, for those of you who don't know, and we do have to do donor checks, and we do them, and we take that very seriously. But there'll be even more guidance so that it's easier for people like us to do our checks. And there is an idea that the Electoral Commission will get some more teeth to be able to fine people who break electoral rules. On the last sort of like big area, there's people have been really hoping there was going to be an automated voter registration. So that's not quite going to happen, but it's going to make it easier and quicker for people to register to vote. There's also going to be measures around protecting the safety of campaigners and candidates, which is something, again, that I think we all feel passionately about. And it's coming up to the 10th anniversary of Joe Cox's death. And David Amos was also, as we know, murdered. And I think those people deserve protection and support. And lastly, there's the whole claim about this bill is it's going to make it fair, secure, and inclusive democracies, which is where we're going to start challenging them. Because what's not in the bill? So there are a few things that we do think are important that aren't in the bill, but aren't about our elephant in the room. So we think that the Electoral Commission should be independent, and that is something that the APPG is really, really going to be pushing. Looks like they're not going to put a donor cap. Oh dear, I've got some spelling mistakes here, sorry. A donor cap on donations, which we think that should happen. And we do think there should be tighter controls about spending. The one thing that we put at the bottom, there's no ban or restriction on crypto, is I think that will change during the bill. But again, I think partly that's due to the Philip Rycroft investigation. But there is a real debate about whether there should be an outright ban or a moratorium on crypto. But the thing that's really not in there is nothing about system change. So we have been calling this the representation of some of the people bill. Make up your own slogans, but without the system change, we don't have a resilient, fair, equal democracy. So what we know is the bill has already been launched. So they just table it in Parliament. It's not discussed. This happened over a week ago now, and they just lay it down, it's called. So the first opportunity for all of us to make a difference is the second reading, which is on the 2nd of March. We've created a briefing that you may use or do your own, but we want every MP to have had a briefing on why first past the post doesn't work and why we need proportional representation. We're going to talk a bit more about how you get around doing that in a minute. But then the second thing that's important for us, probably more than you, even though some of you will be really interested in it, is the committee stage. So the committee is drawn from across the political spectrum. We are hoping that for the APPG, that Ellie Chowns will be selected, but as a smaller party's representative. But we have to keep our fingers crossed. But as soon as we know who's on the committee, we will let you know, because they are your MPs. So we can try and work with them to show the public support for system change. But when we're really going to need you is somewhere between late March and early April. And we're having to be vague about it at the moment because the parliamentary team are being vague about it at the moment, as in within Westminster. In April, we will push for an amendment for a national commission. We're hoping that in between that time, that our friends in the Liberal Democrat Party or the Green Party will push for a wholesale amendment for PR. But we know, because of the government's vast majority and the fact that Keir Starmer has yet to commit to PR, that they won't take that on. But if we can get them to take the National Commission, that means we can prove our case well. So we will tell you what we need you to do and what we want you to do during that phase. And we, of course, if you've got great ideas, please tell us, because we want to hear those too. After this report stage, it's become very strange. I don't often say that, but it is, because there's going to be a King's speech straight after local elections, like a week after. We know the local elections are going to be very dramatic. They're going to be very challenging for the government. We are already reading, and I'm sure you all are, in the press, that people think Keir Starmer's days are numbered and that there might be a change of Labour leadership around that time. So there's a lot of things that might be going on. But what we have been told by the clerks in the committee, in the Parliament, is that this is a carry-over bill, which means that it will continue in the next session and it will complete the rest of its stages. And that will include lobbying through the House of Lords, which we will do and we will ask your help for. But of course, we've got to understand that for the House of Lords, it will be very difficult for them to say, and you know, this is how you should be voted for in the Commons. But what we believe is that they will equally champion a national commission. So that's what we will be pushing during that phase. So what can you do? I mean, you all do so much anyway, and just by being here, you're really helping us. And, you know, thank you again for being here. But the first thing we want to ask you to do, and Caroline's going to tell you a bit more about some of this later, is just get in touch with your MP. If you've done that and you want to do more, we would encourage you to write to your local media, and we are going to run another session on how to do local media. And we've got a few of you in the call who I know are already all over it and can talk to any of us about it better. Also, we're going to ask you to use your social media accounts. And I always give Audrey a shout out because she's such a stalwart of our movement. But, you know, Audrey is always saying, remember, share posts, comment, and that's really important. So not just writing your own posts, but sharing our ones and our allies. So if Unlock Democracy or ERS or Compass are showing a post about PR, share it and comment underneath it, because that comment brings it up in the algorithm and means it's easier to get traction. So we're going to ask you to do that as well. And then, you know, keep your eye on your emails, because things are changing fast. If you are not on our WhatsApp group as well, join the WhatsApp group, because that's where we're going to give more and more information. Because if something happens with the Labour leadership, or something happens in Parliament and the Liberal Democrats once more galvanise all their supporters and shift some like amendments around PR, we're going to need you to help. So please do that. Right, I think over to you, isn't it, Caroline?
Thank you very much. Yeah, so on contacting your MP, I'm sure there are lots of you on the call who are incredibly proficient at doing this. But for those of you who maybe haven't so far or haven't had much success contacting your MP, what we need you to do is write to your MP, first of all, personalise it. Make it about, you know, you. Why do you want PR? Why does PR matter to you? You can be really emotive at this point. You know, it might be that you've never, ever had a vote that counts. And, you know, maybe you've spent years wasting your vote. Maybe you've just recently moved to a constituency where you've got a vote that counts, or you've moved from a constituency where your vote counted and now your vote doesn't count at all. Many reasons. You can also put as to what you think PR would change for you in your day-to-day life, why you're so invested in the campaign, why would your life be better under PR. You can also, we've had lots of people have had some success when they've looked at what their MP is interested in. So one example of this is we had an MP who was very interested in environmental issues, and then this particular activist went and looked at, sort of got some stats as to how PR made it faster to do things like ratify the Kyoto Agreement and things like that, where environmental issues are better served under proportional government. And they wrote to their MP and stated that and said, you're really invested in the environment. I think we should be looking at PR alongside environmental issues to, safeguard our environment that way. If your MP is particularly keen on something like railways, for example, and nationalisation of railways, you can look at other countries that use PR. We're happy to help you with any stats and things like that. If you've got a particular burning issue that your MP is keen on, where you can link that back to PR and make it so that, it grabs their interest and their attention. When you are writing to your MP, please ask for a response. Sign it off as though you are expecting to hear back from them. I look forward to hearing from you. Please, can you let me know when this meeting can be arranged? And if you haven't heard back from them within 2 weeks, follow it up. Reference the earlier email. When you're writing the original email, if you've emailed your MP on the subject before, let them know that you've emailed them before. And crucially, when you are sending that email, please put your postcode in there. Let them know you're a constituent. You'll need your full name and your postcode. Otherwise, they don't have to respond to the. Molly, can I have the next slide along as well, please? Thank you. You don't, if you've got an MP that you like your MP you can write to and you can email, you could also have a look and see if you can phone and ask for an appointment that way. MPs will run a constituent surgery, so you can call up and ask for an appointment in person with your MP. Most MPs have staffed offices, so you should get an answer or at least be able to leave a message where somebody will call you back. You can contact, some MPs are really good on social media now. It's worth taking a look and seeing if they've got a Facebook page or an Instagram account or a Twitter account where they accept messages. You can message them that way. You get the advantage there where you can generally see if they've seen a message, so you know whether you're going to get a response or not. But again, if you're putting anything on social media, if you're contacting them on social media, remind them that you are a constituent, include your full name and your postcode, and still ask for a response. You can also, if you're looking at social media and MPs' websites and things like that, a lot of MPs hold group meetings. My neighbouring MP does a very successful Pint with My MP, which might not be everybody's cup of tea, but he runs that on a monthly basis. It's worth looking and seeing. A lot of MPs do coffee mornings and open surgeries. Things like that are great because you can just book an appointment. Some of them you have to book an appointment. Some of them you are just allowed to show up. It will say on either their website or their social media. But it's definitely worth having a look at that because that can be a really good shortcut, which saves the need to write any letters or call the office. So, but yeah, just try and keep it as personal as possible. Try and, really bring back to why PR is important to you, and just do chase them up. Give them 2 weeks to respond. If they haven't, chase them up. So I think that probably just about covers it. But if you've got, if you're having, if you get a meeting with your MP and they come back to you and they get a meeting booked in, if you want to come through to us, email us at the team inbox, drop us a message, let us know if you've got a meeting booked in. But also, if you want any guidance for once that meeting is booked in, if you want any kind of prompts, notes, we've got some kind of info sheets and things like that. We can definitely help you with any information you need once you've got that meeting booked. And again, if your MP's got that special interest in, I don't know, railways, the environment, maybe something that's specific to your local area, but might be an issue that's better served under PR, do let us know, because we might be able to get you some useful information that you can drop into that email as well. So I'll hand back to Emma. I think I've probably said enough.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. All really great tips there. I think another really good tip at the moment is if you have a Labour MP and they voted for, which I'm sure most of them did, scrapping the two-child benefit cap, you can tell them that Reform has said already they're going to overturn it in the next election, and all, your good work will be overturned by someone else coming in. And that has made them pretty much stand up and listen to me on a couple of occasions. And this is what we're going to look like when we've got PR. No, I'm just kidding. Right, that is us. We've spoken at you a lot. I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to go into the Q&A. I am sure there's been lots of questions. Molly, have we got any to start off with?
We have a good one from Jeff who asks, what does he do if his MP is already supportive of proportional representation?
Ah, yes. Well, there's nothing wrong with thanking them, okay? MPs love to be thanked for the stuff that they haven't done as well as stuff they have done. But I think that talking to them about how important it is for you for them to show up to the second reading anyway would be great. Check they've joined the APPG. If they haven't, ask them to do that. And then if they've sort of like said, I've done everything, you can ask them, would they like to do a video? Would they like to come to a meeting and talk about PR? Because we need more and more and more people talking about it. So if they're supportive and they want to come on one of these calls, we can create a call where they can talk about why they're supporting PR as well. And it would be great to know, I think, more about why MPs are supporting proportional representation. And I think those who talk about it based on not just democracy, but other issues make it even more compelling. So go and ask them about that too.
I also wonder, because we've got Sue on the call, who I know has just managed to thank her very supportive MP Charlie Mayard. I wonder, Sue, if you were okay to speak a little bit about that, not to put you on the spot.
Mm.
Well, I have to say, we in Oxfordshire, I should say that my colleague from Whitney, Charlie Maynard's constituency, is on this call. Sheila might have something more to say than I can, because she's met with him. I think last year they hand delivered a Valentine, but we did this last year and we did it again this year. We sent Valentines to all 7 of the MPs in our county in Oxfordshire, and Charlie Maynard did this very nice Facebook where he held up the card and explained that he'd received it. So it was just very nice and good publicity. And he's got a sister who's very pro PR and did quite a lot. So he's very approachable. Who else have we got? We've got Layla Moran, who's on, very, very approachable, but she's always very busy. We're trying to fix a meeting with her. We aim to have a meeting with all 7 MPs over a year, and it would be wonderful if we could get them all together at some point. I'm not sure. We might try a Zoom, because Annalisa's predecessor, MP Andrew Smith, for 30 years, I know, and I saw him recently, although he doesn't live in Oxford very much. He said, I'd be very happy to talk anytime as long as it's on Zoom. So I guess we could think about doing something on Zoom. I'm just thinking aloud, really. So if you've got any other suggestions, let us know. I certainly think it would be good to get MPs to meetings and to ask them why they joined the APVG. So that's all I can say. I don't know if Sheila's got her hand up. She'd like to say something.
Yeah. Come on, Sheila.
Well, nothing new and nothing much more to add to what Sue has already said, really, because we work very closely together, the Whitney and Oxford groups. In fact, we're almost sort of one enlarged group. But things really changed here in Whitney after the 2024 election, because we had a Conservative MP who was adamantly set against first past the post. So we were bashing our heads against a brick wall for years, writing to him and just getting a no answer all the time. So the atmosphere has really changed since we have the Lib Dem MP, Charlie Maynard, who's very supportive. 2 years running, we've sent him a Valentine's Day card signed. And I wrote to him, I think at the weekend, of course, in response to NVM's email urging us to do that, and reminding him that I was one of the signatories to this card with a number of my other colleagues, and knowing his support for the general principle of PR, just kind of reminding him about the second reading on the 2nd of March, just to make sure that he was going to be there, and asking him to reassure me that he was going to be. And I think Sue may have already mentioned it. He actually, on his own Lib Dem Instagram or one of those social media platforms, to our great gratification, he actually did a small, about a minute video of himself holding up our Valentine's card and waving it and saying, I've had this Valentine's card from my Whitney constituents, thanking me for my support for PR, and then going on to say, why he thought it was so important and why he needed to do it. So we're kind of pushing at an open door there with Charlie Maynard. But I do agree that, we just it's a good idea to keep reminding him. I don't think particularly that we need to go and knock on his door and have a surgery meeting with him, because we know he's already on board. We just need to remind him to make sure he's there at the second reading, that he speaks up, and to remind him that he has the support of many of us here in the Whitney constituency who are behind what he's already doing.
Thank you, Sheila. Such a perfect case study and sort of outline about how to work well with your MP. And, one of the things that I was on a different call last week with a group of people thinking about voting, and said, you always remember that it doesn't matter if you voted for them or not, they're still your MP and they are there for you to talk to and ask what's going on. I noticed earlier up in the chat that I think it was Edward said his MP refuses to meet people. Well, that's just not on, and they're not meant to be like being able to refuse. So I think we keep on pushing. And the MPs that I've spoken to who received Valentine's cards said they loved it. They said because they get so much negative sort of like messaging, that actually having something just really positive and like thank you really made their day. So I think let's keep on saying thank you to the good guys out there, good guys and gals out there. There was a question from was it Sean I saw?
Yeah, so we've got a question from Sean saying, given the fragility of the Labour majority and the threat of reform, who now think they can win using first past the post, can pressure be brought on the government to encourage them to adopt PR?
So I think it's a great question, and I think the answer is kind of, because one of the challenges for us as a cross-party organisation, but also because we genuinely believe in the ethos and values of PR, this isn't about one-upmanship. This should be about all people saving their seats. This should be about morally like doing the right thing. However, I do know that now that they are seeing how the polls are working out, that people are now getting worried. And I don't know if you've all had the briefing, but the briefing we shared about the second reading, I took some of the work from John Curtis on this, and he sat in a room full, packed to the rafters of MPs that I chaired, and he said, so you're all minority parties now. You might not like to hear it, but it's true. And you could see people's faces. They were quite shocked because they just assumed, particularly the Conservatives and Labour politicians, that they were always going to be supreme. But he's like, that's not what the voting is telling us. And I think that possibly an even greater message is about this fragmentation and the fact that people are viewing politics in a different way and people want their vote to count in a different way is one of the ways to engage MPs. But we should try every single avenue that we can. But thank you, Sean. Yeah, really good question. Molly, Caroline, have we got other?
We had a couple of questions about Conservative MP. So who's let me just check, sorry. We had a question about whether It was from Edward saying that he's already contacted his Tory MP, but he's fiercely in favour of first past the post. Is this commitment to the status quo formal Conservative Party policy?
Yes, it is. We are trying to work very hard at changing that. They are the only party within the whole of the Westminster village that have a very firm position supporting first past the post. So behind the scenes, we are working with MPs and peers and trying to encourage them to think about things differently and see how a system might work differently. And I don't know where you are living, Edward, but and some of you know that because I've spoken about this before, but I grew up in a very rural village in South Lincolnshire near the market town of Grantham, which has always had a Conservative MP. And that person, I can't even remember who the MP is now, but will never support PR because, as far as they're concerned, they've got the safest seat in the country, and they have got one of the safest seats in the country. And I think that the funny thing is we talk a lot in the office and with our partners in the democracy sector saying the number of safe seats are fewer, but they actually still exist. And if you live in a safe seat, you really feel like your vote and voice don't count, because if your MP doesn't reflect your values, you never get a look in. So we really need to change that. But we'll keep you updated. We've got a couple of opportunities, we think, with Conservatives. And for those of you who were on the call, we had Nigel Evans, who's a former Conservative, who spoke about his Damascene conversion to PR. And there's a new, and I'm going to get their name wrong, I think it's something like Prospect or something, a group of Conservatives who are coming together to really think about how they can reframe the centre-right as a sort of like antidote to reform in their minds, but also they feel like their party needs a refresh. So fingers crossed we might get some good news from them.
Mm. And I would
I
also
think,
maybe add that it's still worth engaging with Conservative MPs, even if they
yes.
said, I don't believe in first past the post. Sorry, Caroline.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I live in a historically very safe Conservative seat that's very likely to go over to Reform at the next election. And actually, I've emailed my MP. I haven't had a response yet, but we'll see what she says. But I've emailed her and said, look, your choices are going to be to lose the next general election or go over to Reform. And our neighbouring MP, Suella, has just moved over to Reform as well. So it's there is that angle to go in and say, it'd be really nice to have a chat about this. Can I have a meeting with you? So, we'll watch this space. But there are some of us who are in seats that have historically been safe that are about to become quite marginal. So it's worth bearing in mind that it might be another avenue in.
And we definitely don't want any MP saying this isn't something that my constituents talk to me about or ask me about. We make sure that's not the case. A question on systems. So Lars has asked, surely the key issue will be the form of PR that we're pressing for. Divisions on this will delay and sink the campaign.
So I'm seeing who's on the call, so I'm going to get told off. So one of the first things I did when I came to Make Votes Matter, I went to the Green Party conference and I spoke. And someone said to me, what's your preferred system of PR? And my colleagues went, we don't talk about systems. And I was like, oh, STV, because I understand it. And they're like intake of breath. And then afterwards, someone ran up and went, we don't talk about systems. I think we have to talk more about systems. So there are a couple of things on that's coming up. Alberto, who most of you know, has written an excellent analysis of all the systems that are in play at the moment. And we're going to share that soon. But I also know, because I see that there's like Alan on the call and others who have got other views about how systems might work. So we want to try and we've got I keep on pointing to my phone. We've got a WhatsApp, which is a systems chat. So join that if you're interested. But we are going to think about how we can engage and talk a bit more about systems. And one thing, because I think you're right, and was it Lars? Sorry, but I think you're absolutely right that if we're not careful, that will be the next derailing thing. Oh, no one can agree on a system. And even though this isn't about a system, Lord Kinnock was in touch recently, and he said that he felt we should start talking about a proportional constituency-based system. And he said it doesn't matter what the system is, but he said that because the argument always comes to him, what about the constituency link? And even though one of our colleagues in here, I can't work out, said, oh, lots of people don't know who their MP is. it's something they talk about a lot. It's the constituency link's important. So we're going to talk more about the constituency link. We're going to do more on systems. And so do join that WhatsApp chat if you're on WhatsApp. And if not, we will send emails to see how you can be involved in those discussions because they are important.
And I'll post a link to the systems chat into the WhatsApp group. I've also posted one a little bit earlier to the social media channels, so that's where you can join and you'll see us sharing social media posts. It's a bit of a systems related question, Emma.
Go on.
This one is, what work is being done to challenge the old constituency argument that changing to proportional representation would break the constituency link?
Well, I think that the interesting part of it is this assumption that people know who their MP is, as David said, lots of people don't. They really don't. And also understand what their MP does. So a lot of the times that people go to their MP with an issue that's actually a council related issue, and then the MP can just fob them off on the local councillor. So I think there's a lot that needs to be done just to talk about actually the roles of councillors versus government versus MPs. We know that there are plenty of examples. We see it in Scotland already, where there is a system which allows for a strong constituency link and be more proportional. So I think there are lots of ways in which we need to talk about it in those frames. Does that sort of answer your question? I hope it does. Sean asked about Conservative Action for Electoral Reform, which is an organisation which is a bit like those of us, those of you who are Labour or Lib Dems, you have them in Land or LDER. It is technically still going, but it's not going as quickly as we need. So we're doing a bit of our work ourselves. And thank you, Tim, for Prosper. I didn't get the name right, I don't think, but there we are, we got it. The Prosper is the lobby group.
We've got a question from Peter. How do we persuade Starmer and his acolytes to change their mind about PR within the context of this bill? This is the only way to progress PR. Starmer doesn't care about democracy.
I think he deeply cares about democracy. I just think he just cares about it in a different way from us. And I think that now that Morgan McSweeney is out of the way, who was his chief of staff and big advisor, there might be a bit more room to influence Keir Starmer. But I tell you, the big challenge we've got right now is everyone, as I mentioned when I was talking about the bill, lots of people think that Keir Starmer's days are numbered as PM. So then it's like, who might replace him? So we're trying to do two kind of bits of thinking at the moment with allies in the sector. Number one, what do we do if there's a change of leadership? How do we use the grassroots to make sure we get the right candidate, i.e. someone who supports PR, like as the new leader? But I think equally as important is, what if Keir Starmer stays in post? So we've been doing some work around who he listens to, who really influences him, and how we can get him to come back to PR, because he has supported PR in the past. So it's not like he's never supported it. Has in the past. So we need to bring him back on that journey. So all this work is ongoing, but it's hard work, right? And I think that at the moment it's got an interim chief of staff, so we're waiting to find out who his new chief of staff is. And once they're in post, we will start lobbying them.
Ian. We've got a few comments from Sean saying that there are systems that do retain a clear constituency link, and a comment from Bridget who was saying that PR was voted for by a large majority at the Labour Party conference. Let me just see if there's any other questions.
There was a question way back at the top, because we've had so many questions, thank you, which was about what lessons we've learned from the AV referendum. I think that was a great question. I didn't catch who asked it, but thank you very much for asking that. So number one, we're hoping that legislation can be changed without a referendum, not because we're anti-democratic and not we don't believe in referenda, but if all but one party support PR, there probably doesn't need to be a referendum. If there is one, you're absolutely right. We need to learn the lesson. And I think we learn the lesson from that and the Brexit referendum about how you really talk to people about what they want and what they feel, as opposed to strange concepts up here. I don't know how many of you on the call knocked on doors during the AV referendum. I did. Most people had no idea what it was about, why it was happening, and they were much more worried about the fallout from the global financial crisis. So I think there's going to be a lot about messaging, how we pitch it, but we're keeping our fingers crossed that we don't need a referendum.
We've got a question from Chris about the Good Systems Agreement and asked if this is still valid.
It absolutely is. And the work that I mentioned about that Alberto has done on systems is through the lens and frame of the Good Systems Agreement, because there's no point throwing away good work. We build on good work. So yes, absolutely.
Brilliant. Edward Jackson has asked another question saying, our constituency Labour Party has sent a formal motion to Keir Starmer, Lucy Powell and Steve Reid, asking for the National Commission for Electoral Reform to be set up. Other CLPs could do the same.
I mean, indeed, I know we've got a couple of people here who are part of the Labour for a New Democracy and Labour campaign for electoral reform. I'd encourage you to talk to them about as well, trying to push for more CLP motions. We have definitely seen an uptick in those within our inbox. And I'd say Joan Ruddock's got in asking, talking about the National Commission, which is something we're really pushing as well over the next. So, National Commission, that is what we'll be doing.
Yeah. And we've had a comment from Jeff about referendums, but we do get asked about referendums sometimes. So Jeff said referendums are a bad idea for PR. It will be rejected.
We just don't know is the truth. And I think it's very interesting. I was talking to people who are part of the policy team in Reform UK, and they were saying that that Nigel Farage has said he wants to use more referenda when he becomes Prime Minister than less. And I was saying, what sort of issues would you be putting forward to a referendum? And they were quite shocking to me, because it was like, bringing back hanging and things like that. But they definitely want to see, as they see it, as more democracy and more people movements. So I don't know, who knows? It's all up in the air. People thought there was no way that we'd vote for Brexit in this country, and yet we did. I just want to quickly go. We've got 4 minutes, and I know people want to go and have their dinner. I just want to quickly talk about Tom's point, which he said there's another elephant in the room, and the current system is electoral risk with, like in the US, really, and getting right-wing parties into power. I think that for us, there was a great piece of work that Compass did. I know some of you are members and some of you were on the call, but actually how PR systems tend to hold people to account better. And it's much harder for a right wing or an extreme left wing party to really rule the roost and dominate because of being kept in check. And I'm sure we can dig that work out if you haven't seen it, but it's definitely well worth looking at. Do we have any other? Oh, Liz has asked, did Gordon Brown not produce a report on how to make our electoral system more democratic and recommend a national commission? Well, the Labour Party had a big report by Jenkins on, which was almost a national commission on PR, and he said that we should do basically AV plus. And again, as part of Alberto's work, he's analysed what happened in the Jenkins Commission, and we have been talking to Labour MPs and saying, if nothing else, you have got this commission that one of your people commissioned. Why don't you take those recommendations forward? We are using every one of those little mechanisms where we can. And thank you, Sean. Yes, a reminder of it's called the temper trap. Bill is asking the question I try and avoid, but I'm not going to avoid today. Are you confident a new PR system can be in place by 2029? So I believe we can do it, but I think it'd be difficult. And I'm not going to lie, because I think it's going to be a challenge. Because I think what's likely to happen, there's a few scenarios, and this goes back to that thing I was saying about we're working really hard with partners across the sector to do scenario planning about a whole bunch of stuff. So if Keir Starmer is ousted as PM and a new Labour leader is put in as new PM, it is likely they will learn the lessons of the past and call an early election. And that means that zero chance of getting it in before 29 because the election is going to happen in 27. That if that happens, that happens. But we will then go straight, really working hard to making sure that a commitment to PR is in the manifesto, we like this idea, a hard commitment to changing the voting system. If we see in May that Keir Starmer is staying on, I think it's more likely that then we've got to push really hard for him to see sense about changing the system. And we've spoken to quite a few different people, much smarter than I am, some people who are professors at Cambridge and some clerks in committees and all sorts. And they have said it is technically possible to put a new system in, absolutely. But what we would not be able to do is put a complex system in, and it would have to be a kind of, I don't want to say halfway house, but it would be something because there's not enough time to do a big boundary commission change. And that's what often holds things up is long-winded and complicated boundary commissions. So yes, we're going to have to work hard, but I didn't come here to sit on my hands and do nothing. I came here to absolutely make PR happen. And with all of you, I think we can do it. Are there any last questions? Because otherwise people don't have to go home, get off the computer and go have some food.
Francine's got quite a good one about forming an alliance with lots of other organisations campaigning.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that question. We have been doing a lot of work on reaching beyond our traditional base. And even last week, I was in a call with the Green Alliance, who an umbrella group for lots of environmental causes. And they hadn't really thought about PR as being important to them. So that is another thing we've got to do is persuade them why their issue only gets more resonance, power, and longevity with a better election system. So that is something, a challenge we're up to meeting, but it is definitely something on our radar. I think, just seeing if there's anything else. Is there anything else? I am sure.
Okay.
Go on. I think we've run out of time, haven't we? Polly?
I was just going to post a press release that just came out today about an action that was done in Bedford for anyone
Okay.
to look at some local group activity.
Okay. So thank you so much for attending and for staying. We really appreciate it. We'll make sure this video is available. Join our WhatsApp groups. Make sure, if you don't know how to do that, just drop us a line at the team@Make Votes Matter email and we'll get into you. And then we will, but we'll just keep talking and we'll arrange another one of these meetings sooner than usual so that Alex Sobel can start talking to you all.
Hello,
Okay.
Emma. It's Alan Meekings here. I may be too late. I'm trying to raise the issue of ranked choice voting because I think you've indicated that it's unrealistic to expect a full system of PR to be implemented in advance of the next election. And it worries me greatly that we are not worrying about how dramatically to improve the voting experience in advance, which we can do with ranked choice voting, widely used elsewhere around the world. I've sent a list of the 21 problems that it resolves. You're not mentioning it. Is there something behind that?
No, nothing behind it. It's as I said earlier, we are going to do a whole big piece on systems. It is not my area of expertise, and I wouldn't want to try.
Essentially, all that it means.
Oh, sorry, Alan. Sorry. We haven't got really time to get into it right now
Okay.
because we've got
But essentially, it's the same ballot paper. You just rank the candidates, and it's transformational. Invented back in 1855 by another Brit, widely used around the world. We could get
Nearly
that
every
done.
system was created by a Brit, by the way, we've discovered. But I am going to have to, I'm afraid, we will get you to share
Try to raise it separately.
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you, because we need to leave. And thank you, Rachel, for comments about my earrings. I do like to make some nice earrings, but we'll get you as much information as we can. And yeah, look out for the systems seminar that we're going to do. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.